Welcome to the Highly Evolved Male Summit. I'm your host, Ethan Duculta, and today we have the awesome Paul Marwood. From his early years growing up in Zimbabwe and Australia to his current life in the United States, Paul has embodied the clarity of vision for his life and followed his heart to pursue his passion. At the height of Paul's career, he had a near-fatal car accident that brought about rapid changes in his perspective on life, moving him from the logical 3D of owning his international engineering company to a more spiritual focus as a spiritual entrepreneur and life coach. Paul is an international speaker, teacher, practicing healer and guide. He is a certified Akashic Records reader, co-founder of 3 Ascension Activations and the Universal Sphere. And he is here to talk to you about dealing with the shift from the logical masculine 3D life into a more spiritual life with greater ease. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thanks, Ethan. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I guess, just talking a bit, leading in a little bit into what we're talking about here, it's, most of us have, welcome to the audience. Hi, guys. Most of the guys can be watching us, but the ladies obviously are invited as well. I'm so excited that we are going through this time of ascension. Most of us are aware of it. Some of us aren't, and we're changing. We're evolving, increasing our. We're all spiritual beings, but we're evolving to more. Some of us are doing it quickly. Some of us are doing it not so quickly. Some of us are going through nice, gentle changes. Some of us are going through radical changes. And it's, we're all unique. There is no good or bad. There is no right or wrong. There's no one, I'm better than you type thing. We're just simply going on our journey. And part of this is, I have to say, I've been on both sides of the coin now, and I'm so glad that I'm at where I'm at now, and I'm continuing to strive even further. So, we'll talk about this more in the next, leading on a couple of minutes. But, it really is an expansion of the experience of us, experience of our lives. I'll give you some examples as we talk some more, but, I'm so grateful for what happened to me to bring me to this place in this time. And I'm continuing here to help as many other, both men and women, to expand ourselves, raise ourselves consciously to new levels and experience the greater aspect of ourselves. It's so incredible. So,
Great. Tell us about your story. How did it all come about? We heard a little bit about it in the intro, but how did all this happen?
I guess taking a little bit of a step back, we all kind of have little gifts or things about ourselves. I've always known a little bit about the future. I don't know all the details, but I know a little bit about it. When I was at high school, I already knew I was going to be an engineer, so I took the classes at school to be an engineer, became an engineer. I knew that I was going to have my own company, even though I was working for a big international telecommunications company when I left and graduated. Again, I just worked until I didn't work for them anymore. Kind of the things fell into place. And then I started forming my own engineering company. And, it was interesting that really this was one piece that I wasn't aware of. Suddenly, for me, I had probably a more sudden and extreme spiritual awakening. I used to do motorsport, club motorsport, and we were on the side of the road one day setting up a station, and a local person, just as we pulled over, came up and hit us. We were stationary on the side of the road, hit us in the car at 100 k's an hour.
Wow.
And it should have killed me because he basically impacted right where the driver was, because I was trying to reverse further off the road. Anyway, instead, basically I was walking around the car outside the accident afterwards. I had a 4-point racing harness on at the time, so I shouldn't have got out of the car in any way, shape or form. I should have been crushed. The driver's seat was sort of this wide. It didn't make sense of what happened, but I was walking around relatively fine outside the car. Some minor internal injuries, but that was basically about it. Created a Kundalini Awakening. Not all of us have the Kundalini Awakenings as such, and we are all awakening at various levels. basically within a couple of months, my life went from me being an engineer, logical based, kind of thought psychic people, smoke far too much pot and should actually go and build something, be useful to the world instead of sitting around in dreamy land, to literally in a couple of months having out-of-body experiences, having past life experiences, living past lives, talking weird languages. It kind of got really crazy very quickly. And then literally I was able to find the professional services of a professional person who was skilled at helping people through this type of process. And she guided me, helping me, my logical mind understand what was happening so I could rationalize it. I understand why people check themselves into lunatic asylums when they're going through a spiritual awakening, because it can be pretty crazy. But she helped me through this process, and it was wonderful. The universe is always in support of us if we allow it to be. And she guided me through the process, and here I am talking to you today. It's so much more incredible. I get to enjoy both the logical side of things and then the spiritual side of things, and see so much more, appreciate so much more. It's almost like before we were looking at the world with only seeing 3 or 4 colors of the rainbow. Now we might be seeing 20 colors of the rainbow and know there's another 10 either side of that. So, it kind of makes life and the experience of life so much more exciting.
Wow. That's amazing. So was it almost like the near-death experience kind of is almost like death touched you and it catalyzed a Kundalini awakening?
Yeah, it did, and again, that created a complete change in my focus. Suddenly, while I still had my engineering company for a few years subsequent to that, everything went towards a spiritual focus. And so it then just seemed logical to me. Okay, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. I'm now going to be doing spiritual. So sell my engineering company and move on. So that's essentially what happened. And I believe, Ethan, you had a very similar sort of thing yourself. Is there anything you want to share with regards to your experience?
Yeah, but after one thing, actually, I just want to know, can you clarify what a Kundalini awakening is?
Sure, good question. The Kundalini energy, one might say, is almost like a serpent-based or serpent-shaped energy that generally is residing at the base of the spine of every human. It exists in all of us. And then essentially for most of us, we have, over the ages, the thousands of years or millions of years we've been here, it's essentially become dormant. It's there in all of us. And this energy can awaken and start moving up and essentially up and down the spine. It can be a fairly quick process or a process that can take many years. It's what happens as it does that is it starts to clear us, cleanse us, opens us up to new things. We suddenly become aware of new things. And so it really is a life force energy that's very powerful that can move essentially the medical, the words just actually jumped out of my head here. Not thinking the right word, but the medical symbol where you see almost like a snake spiraling around a central spear. That I believe actually is a representation of the Kundalini energy, this Kundalini serpent, as one might say, as it's there spiraling and rising up our spine.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've had a Kundalini awakening, but yeah, I guess there's different types of awakening. Mine is different, I guess.
And I think most people do have a more gradual awakening, and I personally I would wish that upon everyone. The sudden awakenings can be just fairly devastating. But we're in this time of ascension. The frequencies, the vibration of the planet, and everything around us is rising, and so we are moving with it if we choose to be. And so we are all becoming more aware. I'm speaking to so many more guys as clients now than I ever had before. And, we're getting curious, what is this that I'm feeling? Why am I getting sort of ideas now that I didn't before? Why am I becoming aware of certain things? Why am I seeing synchronicities? So, we're starting to get curious as to new things we're observing that we didn't really observe before.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was different. Mine wasn't a near-death experience, but My awakening, so to put it into perspective, I was in a pretty shadowy kind of part of my life, if you like. I was drinking a lot and, you know, partying a lot, and it was quite low vibe, really. In escapism, kind of, you know, working hard at my job. Anyway, so basically, I came home from work one day, and the TV screen was on, and it was an internet TV, you know, it has a search bar at the top, and I looked at the TV, and 1111 appeared in the search bar. I was like, that's strange. What's that? Didn't think anything of it, but then the next day, exactly the same thing happened again, and then I shouted at the TV. I said, do it again. 1111 came up, and I was like, oh my God, this is very strange. Like, the remote was just sat there, nothing was pressing it. And I called my girlfriend through, and I said to her, look what's just happened. And she knew a few things about spirituality. She had been spiritual from before. So she says, do you want to do an angel card reading? I was like, okay, fair enough. I'll give it a go. Not knowing what it is. And the first card I pulled said, you will see repeated number sequences such as 1111, which is when I just felt this energy, like burst out of my crown chakra. I was like, just feeling this energy, like, oh my God, what is this? She's like, well, she's like, you're feeling energy. It's like, oh, right, okay. Anyway, from there onwards, lots of, you might call it crazy things have happened to me. I've since looked up what 111 means on the internet, and it says it's an activation code, which, makes sense to me because it certainly activated me to, see a lot more, visually, become more intuitive, and awaken me to the possibilities that it's not just the physical world, that there is vast amount in this universe that we can't see that is happening all around us, and potentially we can tap into it as well. So yeah, it was quite scary, actually. Something that it was great at the time, but shortly after that, I said I was in a heavy metal band and screaming down the mic with, having this mask, all of that fell away, and that in itself left me quite exposed. So personally, I ended up retreating a little bit from society, just to kind of regain my balance, and figure out what the hell's going on. So yeah, it gave me that experience, but ultimately it freed me as well. So yeah, it can really shake up your world.
Yeah, and the retreating piece, sometimes we just need to, this is where it's all unique for all of us. The spiritual journey is designed to be unique for all of us. We will experience different things. You and I are examples of that. And it doesn't have to be extreme, and the retreating piece, I think, happens to most, if not all of us, at various stages, and sometimes multiple times. The retreat piece is a wonderful way for us to, as you said, regroup. We start to understand what's going on with us, come to terms with the new version of ourselves, and then we step out again, So, this is, again, why I'm a big fan of having a guide or a mentor or something like that, that when you're in a place of retreat, you've got someone that can keep an eye on you. You've got someone who can give you advice and explain where you're at and how you're going through this piece, and help you through it, so that you're not all doing it alone. Us guys tend to do or feel, I'm tough, I can do it on my own, but it's a lot easier. You enjoy the journey. It is about enjoying the journey. So, that's where that important piece is, and the retreat is just part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely what came up for me is, the not knowing, and having a guide there, a mentor to help you through that is definitely a very empowering thing, and it can help you align with who you really are. I guess, when it all falls away, it kind of is all there, but I think naturally we think, okay, so who am I? Like, what am I here to do? What is my mission? What is my purpose? Like, who am I, when that happens? So having someone there to help you is great. So I guess the other question that is coming up for men is, what is it to be, a consciously masculine man? What actually is it?
Good question. I think it's different for all of us, but to put it in a more generalized type term, I think a consciously, evolved man is a man who is in touch with himself. He's in touch with that inner aspect of himself, his inner child, his inner knowingness, his higher self, his physical self. He's aware of his emotions in the moment. He can flow in the moment and be a warrior if he needs to be a warrior, but he can be soft and gentle and loving and compassionate when he needs to. So, it's expanding us to a bigger aspect of who we already are. There's nothing that we're missing. We already have it all now. And so, I believe that's one of the key pieces of being a more consciously evolved man, so that we're able to, in the moment, read the situation better, using the greater flow of information that we have to us, and being present to ourselves, checking in with ourselves, checking in with what's happening around us, and then simply being able to do what we need to do or be who we need to be in the moment that's most suited.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, certainly something that I've found is coming from the heart, being present with the heart has allowed me to, has actually cracked me open, really, because before that I was like a rigid mess, like, able to express, my basic needs, without, I don't know, it's just a different way of being, isn't it? And I guess the more that we can step into that, the more authentic we come across, right?
Well, that's it. When you're starting to talk and be from your heart and express yourself from your heart, which is effectively the connection, your mind, heart, your heart connection to your pineal, pituitary and beyond, you're able to then allow your higher self, your higher aspect of yourself and your true self, so that you're expressing yourself in your authenticity. You tend, as part of this process, to start to drop away those layers and those heart walls and those masks that we put on, and you start to deal with the world as your true self, so, and sometimes that means, as you say, being a warrior, and sometimes it means being gentle and loving and compassionate, but you're able to express yourself from your true self. And with your partner, for example, you can start to connect with your feelings and also connect with his or her feelings as well, and that brings that bond to a new connection. And then as part of the energetic realms, you start to feel the energy, like you highlighted, Ethan, and that way, you start to experience so much more. You can feel an energetic connection between the two of you. You can feel that energetic connection between others, like you and I talking here now, and you start to realize that we're not separate. We actually are all one. We are all connected. And so that kind of puts a bit of a twist on things, because for thousands of years, we've always seen ourselves as separate, and suddenly you're like, wow, what I do to myself, I actually do to others. And a lot of what's happening around me is actually to help me work on myself, highlight what I need to look at and work on for myself. So it's part of, my soulic growth, and that applies to everybody, so it's everything that's happening around us is generally for our own good, for our own expansion, to bring our awareness to, and then something to work on for ourselves, to bring ourselves to the next level.
That's so true. Sort of, having the understanding that we are all one can help us adjust the way that we respond to things. So rather than having to compete and in the process something losing, is less likely to happen, I guess, if we can understand that everything is one. I am you and you are me, and it's just the fact that we are on this 3D plane that it doesn't seem like that, you know, physically, but actually it is. I think we're just living in an existence, you know, that we're lucky enough, I guess, to be living in an existence where we're learning the lessons from that, from being separate entities, but actually we're all the same. So I'm getting there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the sort of world I live in, which is a little bit more multidimensional. It's sort of, we live a sort of fairly esoteric life. You really start to appreciate we're never alone. You know, there is so much in support of us. We have ourselves, we have our guides, we have our partners, we have, you know, the angelic realm. You know, there's multiple levels and this galactic beings. So the Mother Earth, you know, there's so much that is in support of us. And whether we, you know, depending on where you're at in your spiritual journey, you may want to connect to things like that or not. But the thing about it is it's all there, and it's not out there. It's all here. You know, the journey is actually a journey within. And so as we do so, we have a greater level of self-realization. And as part of that, we have this awareness of what's around us. So there is so much in support of us. And so we don't have to be alone. You know, if anyone listens to channelers, you know, and they generally channelers will refer to a we, it's not a me or an I, because in the higher realms, they are all collectively connected. So and that's how they live and operate. And we're getting there ourselves in our physical 3D form, you know, as we're moving 3D, 4D, 5D. You know, humans, we like to put labels on things so we can kind of categorize it. But, you know, as we're evolving and raising ourselves consciously, we're starting to become more connected and more aware of the wonderful support that's around us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still on, you know, I've had a spiritual awakening. I'm still to increase my intuitive abilities and connection in that sense. You know, it's in process. Yeah, I can feel, you know, that I'm supported and connected in that way. But I guess like a lot of people, you know, that men or whoever that live in the 3D world, you kind of really just want to just make things happen now, and you're kind of like goal orientated. I want, you know, I'm waiting for this to happen and that to happen, and I can't wait to be in that place right now, when really maybe I'm just supposed to just surrender to it and just allow it to happen, you know.
You know, that's such a great word, surrender, because, you know, and trust is another big word right now. I love what you're sharing there, Ethan, because, you know, the more we try and push for something, actually, the more it kind of tends to hold it back. I know at various stages in my growth, I wanted to see. And when you really, really want to see, you don't see, you know, as I mean psychically see. But it's interesting because when I kind of relaxed into it, like you've just said, you just relax, you allow the journey to unfold, you trust whatever's happening in the moment, and you work with whatever you need to work with in the moment, then stuff starts to come in. You know, both my wife and I channel, and the beings that are non-physical teachers, they explain, you know, as we desperately want something, we're hanging on to it. So therefore, literally, it's like if the light were to flow into us and we desperately hang on, we're squeezing and throttling the life out of it almost. And so very little information can flow because we're squeezing and holding too tight. As soon as we relax, we allow a much more unlimited flow into us, and we allow ourselves to simply be in the moment and for it to unfold as it's meant to. And then things really shift. So it's an interesting little conundrum that we have. You know, it's like when we get our bike, we just want to get on our bike and ride it, but we've still got to learn how to ride it, you know. So it's a similar thing. It's the wonderful thing about the universe. There's so many things that are repeated in that way. You know, we all want it now, but you tend not to be able to have it now. You just got to work through the journey, which is the fun of it.
Yeah. So kind of being present for that journey, and learning the lessons that it throws at us along the way and adjusting to them, and just knowing that everything's happening in divine timing, I guess.
Yeah, and the thing, and this is, I'm still working with this myself too, is actually enjoying the journey. You know, that we go through challenging moments. There's always going to be the good or bad. It's part of the construct that we're living here in 3D. But, you know, because we have 3D, it has duality, good, bad, mad, sad, happy, sad, all of that pieces. So it's this huge spectrum, and there's also free will. So we get to choose in the moment. So combining those pieces into this physical construct, which is really dense and quite a slow way of manifesting, we get to feel the intensity, but we also get to choose. So that wonderful piece about that is that, really enjoy the journey, because we're meant to enjoy the journey. The more we hate it, struggle, or fight with it, what you resist persists. So as you're struggling with it, you tend to drag that challenging piece on more. And also what we tend to focus on, we manifest more of. So as we're enjoying the journey and in being grateful for all of the wonderful things that we are and what's around us and what we have, we manifest more of that. Whereas if we're focused on all of the things where we're wrong, where, how much we're broken, we actually tend to manifest more examples of our brokenness. So that broken piece, because in the higher realms, there's no good or bad. There's simply an experience. So because we're divine beings, whatever we focus on, we manifest. So if we're focusing on all the broken bits, we tend to manifest more examples of our broken bits. If we're focusing on the wonderfulness, we actually then bring in and manifest more of the wonderfulness. So, it's an interesting little piece in that, but it's helping us get clear and authentic within ourselves.
So in terms of the broken bits as such, many men will have past traumas or wounds, deep wounds and whatnot that, need to be healed. How do they go about doing that?
That's a great question. There's many different ways you can do it. For myself and the tools that we have, because our teachers are non-physical, and I apologize to guys out there in the sense that, my wife and I live a fairly esoteric life, but it's incredible. So I'm really not apologizing for it.
No.
But the piece about that is they're showing us that, for example, some of the tools they've shown us, in this case called the universal sphere, we can use it to dissolve our trauma so that we're not carrying it around with us. And it doesn't have to be hard. There's things like the Akashic records where you can go back and explore and actually understand and see the perfection in those traumatic events. See, because the interesting piece, now humanness, if we take something, and I'll give a hypothetical example. Say someone's raped. Emotionally, it's terrible to us. And we feel damaged or broken and victimized and everything else. But from the soul's point of view, and this might be a bit of a mind bender for some guys, the soul manifests all of this. The soul is really in the driving seat of our life. Our unconscious and subconscious also is a big piece in that. And we manifest something to grow within ourselves. So maybe the rape has allowed us to become stronger within ourselves, find new resources within ourselves to, it could be compassion, compassion within ourselves or someone else or our partner or whoever it may be, to show greater level of compassion, because sometimes we work together in things. So it's all about experiences, and it's all about the experiences and how we work through the experiences that creates our growth. So yeah, we're all wounded. I'm wounded. I've still got wounding stuff that I'm clearing as well. But that's part of our journey and part of our growth, and starting to see the light and the perfection and everything. That's where the universal spheres, that's where the Akashic records are so good, because it really highlights the perfection in what's happened in your events, even the traumatic ones. And then the energy piece helps, remove that from who you are. So you suddenly don't have those repeating patterns that you noticed. And then also, things like the universal sphere just helps dissolve it. So the old realm we used to live in was a lot of hard work. You don't have to have the hard work anymore. Yes, you can be dedicated, but if you continue on like a daily practice, you can actually very quickly move through things and release things. It doesn't have to be the old day of, whipping yourself on the back and things like that to make you humble and make you worthy. You already are worthy. It's just a self-realization of that.
Yeah. I think back back in the day, I used to think of my challenges as hard work. I used to think of, I was in a victim mindset. And, none of that does your mental health any good, for one. And really what I've come to realize is that the challenges that I have encountered in my life, actually I get to be grateful for them, because they have been my greatest teachers and helped me up level because of the experiences I've had. If I didn't have them, I'd still be back there. So it's
and you talked about in your story where you had a fairly into the heavy metal and the drug side of things earlier on. The way I look at stuff like that, it helps you be an incredible teacher, because you've experienced that piece. And so now as you evolve spiritually, you can be an incredible teacher for other men, for example, who are somewhat caught in that area and want to find a way out, because you already have. So then you become an incredible teacher. And that's where you become the victor instead of the victim, because you're reframing things, or able to reframe things to see the gifts and the benefits and everything that happens to us at any moment in time in the day.
There's a great, it's a book, but also a film, actually. It's called The Hero's Journey. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's by Joseph Campbell, I think. But if any of the listeners haven't seen that, watch it. It's really good. And it describes the ups and downs that you have to go through. Well, you don't have to, but that you will go through if you want to be the hero of your journey. But if you're not, then if you don't want that, then usually you end up having a life of mediocrity. So it's kind of your choice. And actually, to be honest, even with the life of mediocrity, a lot of the time you will still end up having to do the ups and downs as well.
So why not improve yourself? You're still going to have the ups and downs, so why not work on yourself? And it's our birthright to be incredible beings. We are essentially unlimited, so we can choose to have mediocre life, and that's fine too. But and also our mind and our ego puts things into box, like mediocrity. What is mediocrity? And that means different things to different people. But from the realm where I'm working in now, the person who's the president and the person who's a street sweeper, they're just as important. Those two humans are incredible souls. There are different stages of their journey, and they're doing different things, but we still all integral. And we need clean streets to be able to live in a wonderful country that's governed by the president. So we each have an important role in this piece, and so there's becomes more of a leveling playing field, as opposed to this enormous difference in like a hierarchy, which is the place of the mind and the ego. I'm better than you, I'm more important than you. When in actual fact you're not. We're just incredible souls embodied in human bodies for a journey, and we may come back time and time again and have different experiences if you believe in past lives. And I encourage people to start looking into that. And, but that piece, we're just experiencing different things for our personal growth and working together like you and I are today to be able to share some information with other gentlemen that are curious. And, for those that will relate, some of us will listen to something and go, that's perfect, that's just right for me. And you're being guided to your teacher or whoever it may be. And other people go, nah, that's not me, and that's perfect too, because it just means that you're not vibrationally aligned, but there's other teachers there ready to help you that are aligned with you. And that's what's so perfect about all of this.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I totally agree with the fact that, no one is more important than another person. We're all equals. Something I would say is that I think if you are in a certain job, I think it's important to feel into whether it is in alignment with you and whether you're happy being there. So I think you can either be a victim in that job and go, oh, I'm having to work here, or you can go, oh, I'm working here because I want to work here, and it's your decision to do that. I feel that that's an important part of the journey, being responsible and yeah, accountable for how you are, how you're being.
I love that. That's important. I'm in complete agreement with you, Ethan. We get to choose at any moment in time, taking 100% responsibility of our own life and where we're at in our life. I choose to go to work because I'm wanting to do this. I choose to, and also, some people say, I've got to go to work to pay the bills, but I choose to go to the work so I can get some money, so I can not only buy some wonderful food for myself and my family, but I can also go out on holidays, or, I can afford my car, or I can afford this, so it flips the whole energy again, moving from victim to victor. I choose this in the moment. And if you're not aligned with whatever it is that you're doing, just simply, I encourage the guys out there, start to open up and look, allow that your high self, allow that inner guidance to start to guide you to things that you are more aligned with, and then start to open up to that. Because the thing is the universe is always, our soul has our back. The universe has our back. The universe is always conspiring to help us. It's never plotting against us. It's always conspiring to help us. So as soon as we start to open up to what is more aligned with us and start to investigate it in that area, then, doors start to open in that area. So, it's always wonderful to be able to see and experience this within yourself. And as you say, you don't need to become a victim.
Absolutely. What would you say to, a man or a woman, doesn't really matter, who was unhappy working in their job? Maybe they are in a victim consciousness. Maybe their relationship is not in a great place. What sort of advice would you give to that person, just as a basis?
Yeah, good question. For me, I would start to encourage people to start to explore themselves. Take some time out in a daily practice to start to work on yourself first. Again, understanding that this is always a journey. If we do too much of a radical change, it's very disruptive to ourselves, disruptive to our family and our lives and relationships and income and everything else. So, I encourage people to start to find something that works for yourself, whether it's a meditation, whether it's doing yoga, whether it's, both, and going out into nature. Spending time in nature is really great because the vibration of nature is very supportive of us. And as you do so, you can start to, if you have a journal, start to write down, have an inner dialogue with yourself. Most guys are like, wow, how am I going to have an inner dialogue with myself? It's just a process. It might even feel a little awkward initially, but as you keep working with it, as you write stuff down, you can even write with the opposite hand because it makes it even more awkward. So you get out of the mind stuff because you're too busy struggling with using the wrong hand. And you can allow information to start to flow. And as you do so, you start to get guidance. You become more in tune with your own higher self, what feels right, what doesn't feel right. You start to learn the language of your emotions, the language of your guidance. You start to have tools. If I have a question, say, do I do this or do I do that? For me, I can put those two scenarios up in my mind's eye and I can ask the question, is this better for me or is this better for me right now? And as I do so, I can see one basically become more illuminated than the other. So that's one of the methods that work for me. But other people may be able to do something similar, but feel a magnetic draw, almost magnetically drawn to one of them. You start to learn your own language of how your higher self, how your body can communicate with you. And as you do so, you can then use those tools to start to find what is right for me? What am I doing? What can bring me more aligned with my highest potential of my soul purpose in this lifetime? Because you're never off your soul's purpose, but you can be more aligned with the highest and best sort of aspect of your soul's potential on this journey. And so as you do so, you might find new interests, whether they're hobbies or whether they're careers, and then you can start to explore it. Again, I would kind of encourage people to start to just get clear within yourself. That's where having your local tribe, people that are aligned with you. There's organizations like MKP, Mankind Project. You can get with a group of guys with that. You can be part of an I group. You can work things out with like-minded men. You can work within yourself as well to just find what's more aligned with you. And as you do so, And if you have a guide, a professional guide, like I teach many men in this process as we move through things. So I help guide men through the spiritual path, exactly as what you've just asked. And then we can move through and explore new avenues. And as you do so in a more gentle way, you can start to get clear on avenues and then start to take action. And as you start taking action, the universe, because you're already clear in that, things fall into place so well. You know, if you kind of just dump everything and go, okay, I'm going to be like this. Let's say, for example, I'm not going to do engineering anymore and I'm going to become an artist. It can be very challenging because it's very disruptive. And then you almost go backwards in your life because you're worried about money. And the worry piece lowers our vibration and we become more disconnected from ourselves and what's around us because we're too busy worrying. So the gentle journey is always more supportive of us. You know, again, we're all unique. We all, you know, what's gentle to you and I could be completely different to someone else. But that generally works the best way. So I hope that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, that's great. That's absolutely amazing. So, like, you know, a lot of men will be in a position where they have, you know, got to a position where they know that things need to change. They've made the decision to make changes, and they kind of know what their purpose is now, and potentially it is, you know, something that you know, something that is one of their passions, that they're not necessarily just going to be able. Well, they're not traditionally. It might be seen that they wouldn't be able to go and make money from it straight away. What would you suggest? Like, in how, you know, some men will be saying, well, how the hell can I, you know, just give up my job and, you know, go and make money? Is that a possibility to actually just go and do it, you know, if it's their passion? Or, you know, will the universe support you, or are you, you know, are you doomed?
You know, I think the answer to that question is really individual to the person. Some of us will adapt very quickly and move into the new place and literally, you know, like it's sort of a sink or swim scenario. You know, you jump in and some people will just swim straight away and they'll do well and they'll be very successful very quickly in whatever they choose to do. You know, I think more people will need an adjustment time. The greater population of guys will need an adjustment time. And that's why I always suggest this sort of gradual process. It might almost be like a hobby initially, and you start to get better at it. But because you still have your job, you're more comfortable within yourself because you have the income, things are more stable in your world. And as you then develop the other piece more, you know, most of it will usually require some level of getting out there, marketing, you know, whether you're talking or whether you're doing social media or whatever it may be to bring about this new aspect of yourself. And then so you can just continue to develop that more and more on the side. And as you do develop that more and more on the side, eventually you find a point where that starts to take up, you know, and you start getting income from it. And so you're less reliant on your job, and you kind of reach a point where you probably sort of where they're both equal or haven't quite got to equal. And when you get to that point, then you can, you know, depending on your circumstance, then you're probably greater at a place where you can start to move away from the job that you no longer like and follow more of what you really do feel so much more aligned with, and then take that to the next level. So, you know, again, that process allows it to be done more gracefully with a bit more ease. It's longer. You know, if you just jump straight in, it's a sink or swim. You know, you've got to make it happen. You still got to pay the bills. And that works for some people. Usually, again, this is part of the process where I suggest when you tune in with yourself and you feel yourself and you ask yourself questions, literally speak to that inner child, speak to your higher self, and ask yourself, am I a person that can get in and just, you know, jump into the deep end and just swim immediately, or am I going to need some adjustment time? And your higher self will guide you in that piece. And most of us do need a little bit of adjustment time because we need to grow into that, you know, really own whatever it is that we're now doing. And as part of that ownership, then we're willing to charge money for it. Many of us are happy to do stuff no charge because we don't quite own our value. But when we really start to own the value of who we are, then we charge for it because it's like, I can see the value in this, so therefore I'm not going to be giving it away. It doesn't serve me, and it doesn't serve my client.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. So once you can kind of vibrate at that level of value, that's exactly what you can charge, because you're enrolled in that idea yourself. So that's what the universe is going to present you with. Yeah, I really like that. So it's almost like a kind of a theory in manifestation there as well.
It very much is, because you ask too much and you don't own that value. Your clients are going to question that, and then you're going to get a failure in that piece, which actually makes it feel worse. And if you do it for free, then you very quickly become very disheartened within yourself, because I'm doing all of this. The universe loves balance, and if you're giving out, but you're not receiving, and you need to receive. And so then you quickly become disheartened. And also your clients, and whatever it is that you're doing for your clients, also don't get as much out of whatever you're doing for them. Because if I'm going to receive something for free, I don't have a lot of vested interest in it. So it's like, oh yeah, whatever happens, But if I've just paid $300 for a session, I've got $300 worth of energy invested in that session. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be getting everything that I can out of that session. And I'm going to go away and do that in action. So this is where this value is very important, because as you own a higher value of whatever it is you're doing, and then you charge it, your clients, you'll get different clients, but also you will, they're going to be people that are more in action about that, But again, it's a personal choice. Do you want to deal with this price range, or do you want to deal with this price range? What's aligned with you? Because some people like this, some people like this. And it just is, there's no good or bad.
Excellent. We're running out of time now, so we're going to have to move on a little bit. Could you tell us about your free gifts?
With pleasure, sure. What I've done is I've gone through this process of, this sort of spiritual awakening. Not that was really part of my plan, but I'm now very well aware that it is, and very clear on what I'm doing is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. So I've just popped together a nice little short information document, which just helps pretty much all of you guys out there when you're at the curious stage. It doesn't really matter too much where you're at in your spiritual journey. There's various pieces to that you can do for yourself to be in support of you, to help you in the journey. Things like increased awareness, being more aware of what's happening with you and what's happening around in your environment. You cultivate yourself in this process. So I'll give some examples and tools on how to cultivate yourself. Commitment, as any of us, if we go to the gym once a month, we're not really going to get strong or cardiovascular fit. But if we go to the gym, 2 or 3 times a week, in this case, in a spiritual journey, I encourage every day, so have that commitment to yourself. And that's really important. And then, another piece of this to be in support of yourself is start to find people that are like-minded with you, so you can share the journey. It makes it far more enjoyable. And then the last piece in this information document is really receive support. Find someone, a mentor, a guide, someone that knows what they're talking about for your particular type of journey, and let them guide you through let them work with you so that they can make the journey literally more rapid. You tend not to pinball so much, where you're trying something and it wasn't right and it fails, and you try something else and you start to pinball, whereas someone who knows what they're doing with this journey can really help and guide you through this process. It makes it a lot more fun, makes it a lot more enjoyable. So some very useful tips to help everyone in their journey, whether you're sort of fairly advanced or whether you're still curious in your journey.
Excellent. That's very generous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Paul, for being on the show. I'm so grateful for you being here and giving away your free gift as well. We're blessed. And thank you for everyone watching. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, because we'll have another amazing speaker, expert, whatever you want to call them, again. So tune in for that. And other than that, peace. See you in the next one.
Peace, guys. Thanks for watching.